Welcome to the real world.
Well, hello there, family. Welcome to another edition of Behind the Desktop with Coach Joe. Brought to you by DJ's Raw Uncut Truth, New Media, Nation United. Hope everybody is doing well. Wherever you are and wherever you're listening, I appreciate you and we appreciate you so much for taking the time to share it with us, this opportunity to learn more, be more, expand more, to bring about a situation where we're working toward oneness. So what I'm going to bring you today and Behind the Desktop is a story and an idea, a story that happened and an idea that is being promoted, has been promoted, a mantra, if you will, that we have learned and grown up learning here that is important. So I'm going to set the table real quick here. What I'm talking about here is the NBA and the coaching situation in the NBA. And the reason I'm bringing this up to you is because there was just a change here. The Minnesota Timberwolves fired their coach, Coach Saunders, and the general manager hired immediately almost a friend of his, someone he worked with, someone he coached with before. A coach in that is with the Toronto Raptors. Now, I'm not going to use the coach's name right now, and the reason I'm not, and I'm going to leave it anonymous, and the general manager, is because I don't want to highlight right now in this video them, because this is not about them. This is about what appears to be happening on the surface, which is an NBA coach, an NBA franchise, making a decision that they want to go in a different direction than their current direction. And they have a right to do that. That's the way it looks on the surface. But something else is going on here. And that's what we're here to talk about. See, that something else is going on here is tied to the word hypocrisy and hypocrite. See, that word brings up in a lot of people, and most of us, and a lot of us, to be a hypocrite, to practice hypocrisy. For a lot of us truth tellers, and those of us here at DJ's Raw and Cut Truth, that irks us. That makes us feel, that angers us in our belly, in our solar plexus. So we get a visceral response. I got a visceral response when I heard this, because it brought up for me the history that I know and that I lived through and that I experienced watching this hypocrisy happen over and over and over and over again in a so-called meritocracy. Sports are supposed to be a meritocracy. The sports world is supposed to be a meritocracy, a place where people rise and fall based on the merits of what they do, of how their tenure unfolded. See, the NBA just told us not here long ago with the bubble, when George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor and many other brothers and sisters were murdered by police officers in this country last summer. people went out in the streets. An organization called Black Lives Matter went out in the street, represented the people, and went out in the street all summer long in cities across this country, protesting what we saw on video. George Floyd being murdered right in front of our eyes in broad daylight. For many of us, including myself, it brought up images of the history of that type of behavior toward black people, African Americans, ADOS, Foundational Black Americans, whatever names you want to call us. There are organizations out there that have many names, but we're talking about the same people, so we're not going to get caught up in a name. Because this is about people. This is about people's lives. This is about families. This is about a country. This is about us living together in peace, based on a set of laws and declarations that said that we all have worth, that we all have the inalienable rights, as the Declaration of Independence says, to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. How can I pursue happiness in a world of hypocrisy, of people practicing and showing up as hypocrites? How can we have freedom? How can we have peace? We can't. That's why we don't have peace. See, the first black coach that was hired in the NBA was Bill Russell back in 1966. And for those that don't know, Bill Russell was a player for the Boston Celtics, historical franchise in the NBA, tied with the Los Angeles Lakers for championships right now in the history of the league, 17 apiece. He became the first black head coach, not first choice, second choice, third choice, but the fourth choice. Because at that time, there were not very many black players in the NBA in 1966. The league was still predominantly white. Leadership, ownership, infrastructure, white. That's how it was back then. But Red Auerbach made a choice to step down. His first three choices, Tommy Heinsohn, Frank Ramsey, Bob Cousy, they turned him down. Bill Russell accepted. He became a player coach. Did you hear me, folks? Did you hear me, family? Family, did you hear me? Player coach. 3 seasons. His first season, they were 60 and 60. Let me see. No. First season, they were 60 and 21. Anybody that follows the NBA knows if you win 60 games, that's a great season. He was a player coach. He played and coached. Think about that in today's world. See, because the reason that's significant to this story is because we just heard something about that. I just heard something about that just here recently. When Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant signed with New Jersey over the free agency period, Kyrie came out and said, before they hired Steve Nash, their new coach, that they don't really need a coach. They can coach themselves. And people threw Kyrie under the bus, talked about him like a dog. How dare him say that? Who does he think he is? He doesn't need a coach. That's his ego. Is this the same guy that said that the earth is flat? This the same guy. Oh, we can't listen to anything he says. Little do we know the history, though. See, those shines in the mainstream media, did they come back and tell us when they were reporting that story about Kyrie? Throwing him under the bus, acting like he came up with some idea that he pulled out of his sphincter? No, they didn't. They didn't say that there's a history of this, and particularly of our people being player coaches. Lenny Wilkins, Al Addos were player coaches in the early 70s. See, there's a careful narrative here that they've kept in place. The establishment, the powers that be, who want to keep us divided, tell us this is a meritocracy. And then we look at the merits. We look at the numbers, the math. 1 + 1 is 2 all over the world. And so when I look at a Bill Russell, when I look at a Lenny Wilkins, when I look at a Al Addos, when I look at a Casey Jones, when I look at the black coaches and former players that were given an opportunity, that were afforded an opportunity to coach the game that they know, that they love, that they played, had the ultimate success. But it seems that is what has happened, is that seems to be the measuring stick. If we don't rise and accomplish the ultimate success, then we don't get opportunities. See, that's what's going on here. The NBA wants us to believe through its actions, some of its actions. Black Lives Matter on the court during the bubble. Black things on your jerseys, sayings on your jerseys, mantras on the jerseys of the players. Protesting what is going on. The NBA is saying, yes, we're behind you guys. Well, behind us means that you support us in the most important ways. Ways that are seen and ways that are unseen. That the rule of meritocracy exists throughout the journey, throughout the infrastructure of the NBA. See, because when a coach is hired, okay, people come with him, jobs come with him or her. This isn't just some individual single action that is taking place. No, this is affecting the lives of many people. It's affecting the lives of the macro, the individual coaches and their families. And then the larger picture, the macro, the image that it is sending out to the basketball community, to the NBA community, to the world, that this is how we operate. Not what we say, not the lip service that we give, but this is how we operate. See, way back in the day when Bill Russell and Lenny Wilkins and Al Addos and Casey Jones and them were being hired, the idea back then was that the rule was, the expectation was, is that you had to play to have an opportunity to coach if you were black. That was a clear message. If you were African American, that was a clear message. You had to play. Because there were many coaches who didn't play that had opportunities. Auerbach, who coached the Celtics all those years. He wasn't a player and won all those championships. You see, family, behind the desktop, we're going to show you so that we can be active participants in our own lives from a critical standpoint, so we can make decisions that lead to choices that are free based on the information that we have that is true. Because I can't make movement and have freedom if I make decisions and choices based on lies, based on a false narrative, based on a bad model, a bad business model. See, professional sports business model is the problem that behind the desktop has. The business model is corrupt. And that's how this hiring took place in Minnesota. This is how it took place, why it took place. One of those isms stepped up. Nepotism, friendism, my homieism, whatever the thing you want to come up with, the ism. I've heard many people spout off, talk about this and bring this up. I've heard many ideas about this. Well, they have a right to hire who they want. Well, I heard somebody said on Twitter, read somebody on Twitter said, well, what do you expect? The country is mostly white. What do black people expect? Yeah, moving the goalposts. Whenever we achieve Whenever we have to go beyond, whenever we have to work 10 times harder, whenever we reach a level of success that they set, they said this is success, championships, they move the goalposts. If you look around right now, there are a number of coaches, white coaches, playing coaching in the NBA, don't have talent, didn't play perfect in the NBA, fulfilling a slot that the NBA set that says leadership at the general manager's position, at the vice president's position, at the basketball of operations positions. These leadership positions that has to do with running this organization, whatever organization it happens to be. It has to be mostly white. I noticed that the thread that of this hire with a number of hires seems to be the G League. So now the G League, which was not that important at all, not that important to most NBA fans. Most NBA fans don't watch the G League. Don't know that Chris Boucher was the who plays for Toronto, came up through the G League and was G League Player of the Year. Maybe Toronto fans know that. Basketball fans like me may know that. But the average fan and people that follow, they don't have any idea what's going on in the G League, and they don't give a god doggone. There are a few more eyes on it because of what LeVar Ball did and his path with Melo, taking Melo on a different journey to the NBA. So now they've changed, moved the goalposts again, changed the prerequisites, changed the way it works. So now high school players that don't want to go to college can go to the G League and make money. That didn't exist before LaMelo Ball and LeVar Ball. Nobody put any emphasis on the G League except the organizations. Nobody talked about the G League except the organizations. But now that's a legitimate way for someone to become a coach in the NBA is success on the G League. Wow. There are currently 7 black head coaches in a 30-team league. 2 of those coaches are former players. No, excuse me. No, 2 of those out of those 7, 4 of them are current players, and 3 of them got there because of their dads. Their dads were former players who became coaches. But out of that 7 head coaches, 2 of them are champions too. Doc Rivers down in Philly, and the current coach of the Clippers. So the goalposts moved again. So now we have to find a way to get ourselves down to the G Leagues. Well, there's a former coach playing right now, and a coach in the G League, Brian Shaw, former player, used to coach in the NBA. He's got that Ignite team. There's a coach that's on the bench, assistant head coach for Minnesota, Coach Vanderpool, who was in Portland for many years, doing what they said you had to do. Pay your dues, pay your dues, pay your dues. He didn't even get a sniff. Goalpost moved again. Now, so are we at behind the desktop with Coach Joe? Are we saying that NBA owners and don't have a right to hire who they want? No, we're not saying that. Are they saying that? Are we saying on here that anybody they hire that that's a friend or somebody they worked with is wrong? No, we're not saying that either. What we're saying is that a meritocracy is a very specific thing. It's a practice that's based upon merit. And in order for this system, the way it is currently being constructed to sustain itself, it has to continue to move the goalpost. Because the reality is, as some have said on Twitter, when those doors open back up and those fans come back out to the stadiums, 12,000, 13,000, 14, 15, 16, 17, they are going to be predominantly white. That's who buying the tickets. That's who has the wealth in this country. So we seem to be in an untenable position, always blowing in the wind, not knowing where we can rest. And that's why new media exists. For us to come together in forums like this to take a stand and say, no, we are not going along with this nonsense. No, we are not going to continue this hypocrisy, and we're not going to be hypocrites. Because that situation that just happened is a real bad look. It looks and smells like collusion and hypocrisy practiced by hypocrites who morally say one thing and then do another. So thank you, family. Thank you guys for coming, taking your time to listen to another episode of Behind the Desktop with Coach Joe, brought to you by DJ's Raw Uncut Truth, New Media, Nation United. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. Peace and blessings. And remember, you are the light of the world. Each of us carries that light. And on New Media, we're here to shine it. Take care. Bye-bye.
Welcome to the real world.